Good evening everyone and welcome to this open session on the Prelims Examination 2021. First of all, let me wish all of you a very happy and prosperous new year. Students, the last year was an extremely tough year. Well, we all know that what the world has gone through. The worldwide pandemic has created not only health kind of problems, but also psychological problems. Now, you see that the calendar has ticked over. We have stepped into 2021, and the very first news that we got this year is that the vaccine is available in the market. So from here onwards, we pray and we wish that everything will fall fine. But let's come to our topic of the day. Today, we are trying to have a look at a proper strategy and a revision plan for the next 6 months. The preliminary examination 2021 is scheduled to be held on 27th of June 2021. Today is 3rd of January. Roughly counted from today, we have 6 months, approximately 6 months to go. तो इन 6 महीनों में हमें क्या करना चाहिए? कौन सी बुक पढ़नी चाहिए? कौन सी बुक नहीं पढ़नी चाहिए? किन सब्जेक्ट्स पे ध्यान देना चाहिए? कुछ छोड़ सकते हैं क्या? Now there's a big question mark on this. What is the role of current affairs? How do we cope with CSAT? Now all these are mind-boggling questions. And you see, over the years, the preliminary examination has turned out to be the most competitive section of the entire examination. Mind my words very carefully, aspirants. I'm saying most competitive, not most tough. Maybe still today, the mains examination, the written examination is perhaps what requires the most amount of knowledge and writing skills and application mind, all of that. But the preliminary examination, due to the number of applications that are increasing over the years, have turned out to be an extremely competitive stage of the examination. To give you a rough idea, what I'm talking about is, in 2015, nearly 9.48 lakh aspirants applied for the preliminary examination. उसमें से आधा तो ऐसा होता है कि एग्जाम से पहले ही वो क्विट कर देते हैं बिकॉज ईदर दे आर नॉट प्रिपेयर्ड और दे आर नॉट सीरियस. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? सो nearly it was about 4.67 lakhs aspirants who finally went into the 2015 examination. Why I am taking 2015 as the watershed year? Because that is the year from where CSAT completely turned out to be a qualifying paper, and the final cutoff was not determined on the basis of CSAT. Before that, only English sections of the CSAT, there was a controversy in and around it. But 2015 onwards, there has not been any substantial change in the way UPSC determines the cutoff for the preliminary examination. Come 2020, nearly 10.48 lakh aspirants applied for the UPSC Civil Services preliminary examination. And nearly again 50% bagged off at the last moment. That is what at least we can assume. It means 50% of the crowd gets eliminated before the examination starts. Well, one thing is that whether you are prepared or not. Another thing is you are prepared, but whether you are confident or not. Most of the times, aspirants prepare for the examination, but they do not prepare during the examination. What do I mean by that? It means you prepare for a particular examination, but you do not prepare for that day. What if things go wrong on that day or not as per your expectation or plan? फिर क्या करोगे? Will you quit? Will you walk out of the examination hall? Well, life doesn't offer you a second chance most of the times. And what if this is your last attempt? Will you have the luxury to move out if things do not fall as per your expectations? Now see, all those great rulers or generals who have won large number of battles, or athletes who have done extremely well in their sports arena, or musicians, artists, everyone who give great live performances. One thing is common among them all. They all have a plan B. Plan B for the D-Day. If things do not go as per their expectation, how should they modify their strategy then and there? Do you understand this? And it is not very difficult, students, to develop that kind of strategy. It is extremely possible for you to develop that kind of strategy. In fact, it cannot be developed overnight. You have to develop it over a course of time. And 6 months, counted from today, is absolutely perfect time to develop that kind of strategy where you can handle any kind of situation on the day of examination. एक लाइन में मैं बोलूं तो आप अपनी तैयारी इतनी अच्छी कर लीजिए कि कुछ भी हो आपका सिलेक्शन होगा. You will see one thing, that most of the aspirants, they are bothered after the examination. They are bothered mostly about the cutoff marks. Well, read my words very carefully. I'm saying cutoff does not matter. Cutoff ऊपर जाए या नीचे जाए, इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. In fact, cutoff is just a mathematical expression of what has happened that year. It is prepared after the examination and not before the examination. It is not a predetermined cutoff. Rather, it is a cutoff which is prepared on the basis of how people have performed that year. Cutoff depends on a large number of factors. Like, for example, how many seats were available that year. If, say, this is generally the strategy or generally the pattern which is followed by UPSC, is that suppose we have 1,000 final seats. Now, seats can be a bit less or a bit more than that depending upon the number of vacancies in the UPSC that year. So, suppose there are 1,000 vacancies, final seats. So, generally this is the strategy that 2.5 to 3 times of the final seats, that many number of aspirants are called by the UPSC for personality test. It means roughly we can say that it is 2,500 to 3,000 aspirants who will finally go for the personality test, or as it is known as the UPSC interview. And roughly 12.5 to 15 times of the aspirants are called for the civil services mains written examination. तो अगर 1000 सीट्स हैं फाइनल तो कितने लोग मेंस लिखने जाएंगे? Means 12.5 to 15 times, so roughly 12,500 to 15,000 aspirants. These many students will go for the mains examination. Now, UPSC has a kind of discretion here. It depends. Sometimes UPSC may decide 14 times the number of seats the aspirants will be called for the mains written examination. Or at times it can be 12 times, even 11.5 times. So there is a kind of discretion with the UPSC as far as the determination of the number of times of the final seats that the aspirants would be called for the civil services main written examination. But आप एक चीज देखो कि prelims के लिए कितने लोग जाते हैं. ये तो हो गया आपका civil services mains examination. This is your civil services personality test, and this is the final selection. But how many do go for the civil services preliminary examination? Well, let me tell you this. It does not matter. Be it 1 lakh, be it 2 lakh, be it सारे बैठ जाओ. जितने हैं भारत में एलिजिबल जनता सारी बैठ जाए. Then also it does not matter. Why I am telling you? Because the competition is only among 2 to 2.5 lakh students. And of them also, if you ask me, how many of them are well prepared for the examination? I would not say more than 50,000 students. So in 50,000 students, serious students, well prepared students, students who have prepared for the examination in a holistic manner, in a comprehensive manner, with good writing practice and good, say, test practice and everything, is only 50,000 on an average. This I'm telling you on the basis of the results that we get in the last 6 to 7 years and the analysis that experts have done vis-a-vis those results. Of these 50,000, 15,000 nearly go for the mains examination. Now you see, you tell me, is it easy now, the examination relatively? देखो, सबसे पहले तो एक डर निकाल दो मन से. सिविल सर्विसेज प्रिलिमिनरी एग्जामिनेशन को लेके दो तरह का डर होता है. एक डर होता है अटेम्प्ट चले जाने का. Many aspirants feel that what would happen if I do not clear the preliminary examination? और दूसरा डर जो होता है वो होता है that not only I will lose my attempt, but maybe I will reach the interview at a later age. If you get selected, say at the age of 28, 29 or 30, then your chances of progressing in the bureaucratic ladder remains very less. A person who is selected at the age of say 23, 24, there is a high likelihood that that person will retire as a secretary to one of the ministries. If you get selected very early, suppose at the age of 22, 21 में आप eligible हो जाते हो, एक साल examination का process है, 22 years में अगर आप select हो जाते हो, तो हो सकता है if you work well and you show good skills, administrative skills, you may end as the cabinet secretary of India, which is the highest bureaucratic post in this country. But क्या होगा अगर आप 26 के हो और अभी शुरुआत कर रहे हो? Well, do not get disheartened. That doesn't matter. Clear? Ultimately, your aim now should not be to become the cabinet secretary. Well, that may happen because it is not always experience but also skill that matters, how much you progress along the bureaucratic ladder. For now, what matters for you is to clear this examination. अभी देखो सिस्टम ऐसा है यूपीएससी के पास that the marks that you obtain in the civil services preliminary examination, they are not counted while preparing the final merit list. The final merit list is prepared on the basis of the marks that you obtain in the civil services main examination and the personality test. But let me tell you aspirants one fact, that there has been a recommendation which is pending with the UPSC, and it will not surprise me that if in the coming years UPSC also starts adding the marks that you get in the civil services preliminary examination to create the final merit list. Because this stage of the examination is the only stage which checks your objective mindset. The other two are more or less subjective in nature. So to have a good analysis of an aspirant and to check whether that aspirant is really capable of serving the country in a bureaucratic position is to check his or her mind from both a subjective as well as an objective framework. Do you understand that? So maybe in the coming years there is a possibility that the marks that you obtain in the civil services preliminary examination, they will also be counted while preparing the final list. But अभी तक तो ऐसा है नहीं, तो अभी सोचना भी नहीं है. So if preliminary examination is just a qualifying stage, the marks that you obtain do not matter at all, then you should only think about qualifying this stage. Do you understand that? ऐसे रेस में फर्स्ट आने का क्या मतलब जिसमें आपको कोई मेडल ना मिले. उतना ही दौड़ो और अपनी एनर्जी कंजर्व कर लो उस रेस के लिए जहां पर दौड़ो और फर्स्ट आओ तो मेडल मिलता है. Do you understand that? Therefore, strategy matters not only for the preliminary examination but also for the main written as well as the personality test stages. Do you understand that? Now, you see one thing, that when we talk about the preliminary examination, we understood that it is only a competition between 50,000 more or less best minds of India. इसमें भी आपको एक चीज ध्यान में रखना पड़ेगा, that only the IAS and the IFS, the foreign services qualified candidates, they are not allowed to take the examination one more time. It means that the IPS, the IRS and all the other central services candidates, they can apply for the examination one more time provided they have attempts and age. Do you understand that? So you can understand that in this 50,000 a lot of candidates are already selected. इसलिए अगर आप देखोगे फाइनल लिस्ट में तो आपने ये ट्रेंड देखा होगा पिछले 3-4 सालों में, that those who are scoring good marks and are getting ranks under 10 or under 50, many of them are already selected. Do you understand that? Once you get the strategy, or once you understand the way to crack the preliminary examination, from there onwards things become really smooth. एक और बात है, which is the ghost of prelims. Now what am I saying? I'm saying the ghost of prelims. इसे prelims का भूत बना के रखा है कि आप इतने डरे हुए हैं prelims से, क्योंकि हो सकता है previous attempts में आपसे prelims नहीं निकला, आपने बहुत कोशिश की बट आपसे prelims नहीं निकला. Maybe that is the reason, or you feel that there is so much to read and so much less time left that you will not be able to give the preliminary examination in a resounding manner. Clear? First thing is, aspirants, this is just an examination. It is not a matter of life and death. You should take it like that. ये बस एक examination है. याद करो वो सारे एग्जामिनेशन जिसको आपने डोमिनेट किया है, आपने हमेशा अच्छा किया होगा, फिर चाहे वो स्कूल हो, कॉलेज हो या कोई भी अदर कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशन हो आपके लाइफ का. बट इफ द एग्जामिनेशन स्टार्ट्स डोमिनेटिंग योर माइंड, देन डेफिनेटली बिफोर द बैटल बिगिंस यू आर एट अ वीकर पोजिशन and therefore your chances of success will dwindle drastically. Do you understand that? Therefore, take this first of all just as an examination. कुछ लोग ये भी बोलते हैं कि अरे प्रीलिम्स में क्या करना, बस 2 महीने पहले शुरू करेंगे 60 days and that would be enough. कई तरह के स्ट्रेटजी भी बताते हैं, जैसे कि एनसीईआरटी पढ़ लेना, कोई टेस्ट सीरीज कर लेना, बस हो गया, इससे आपका प्रीलिम्स तो निकल जाएगा. द पॉइंट इज दैट यस, if you are outstandingly talented or you are extremely lucky or both, there is a high likelihood that you may clear the preliminary examination in that manner. But there is very less chances that you will score very big in prelims. देखो 3 तरह का क्राउड होता है. प्री का एग्जाम देने के बाद क्राउड जो है, जितना भी एस्पिरेंट्स हैं जितने भी, वो 3 हिस्सों में बढ़ जाते हैं. One are those who are getting extremely high marks. Then what the popular cutoff rate is in the market. मतलब अगर कोई ये कह रहा है कि कट ऑफ इस बार 105 होगा, तो इनके नंबर आ रहे हैं 125, 135, 145 प्लस, ऐसे मार्क्स आ रहे हैं. एक ये क्राउड होता है. दूसरा क्राउड वो होता है who are getting extremely low scores. Like say for example, उनके नंबर ही आ रहे हैं 20, 25 या ऐसे जो बताने लायक नहीं है. तो ये दोनों रिलैक्स हो जाते हैं क्योंकि इनको पता है कि हमें तो मेंस देना ही है, बशर्ते कोई बहुत बड़ा मतलब सिली मिस्टेक ना किया हो, जैसे कि रोल नंबर या वैसा कुछ ना किया हो. So they are very much sure that they will go into the civil services main examination. They are 100% sure, the second category, that they are not going to write the civil services main examination, the written examination. And then there is the third category. The third category of students are those who are getting marks between 95 to 110. Means their marks are varying depending upon different keys which are released by different institutions or which are available all over the internet. अगर आप statistics देखो फिर से, you will find that of all the serious aspirants, I'm talking about these 50,000 who are serious and well prepared, you will see that nearly 75 to 80% of the crowd lies here. Obviously, इसमें से बहुत सारे हैं जो इस कैटेगरी में चले जाते हैं, less than the cutoff, too much less, non-serious, or who are not at all prepared for the examination. And only, you see, 20 to 25% only get these kind of marks, extremely high marks. अब देखो, इन दोनों, ये तो वैसे ही बाहर हो गए, तो इन दोनों में है कंपटीशन, ये तो वैसे ही चले गए अंदर. These people, they waste a lot of time in anxiety because they are not sure whether they would qualify the prelims or not, and therefore it takes a hit on their mains preparation. Whereas these students who have scored extremely well in the prelims examination, or those who are getting very high marks in the prelims examination, they start for the mains examination right from the next day, at least in their mind. They prepare themselves that now they will start for the mains examination. अब generally ये pattern है, इस बार तो it was a corona year, so everything happened in a haphazard manner. But if you look at the average of the last 5 years, you will see one thing, that UPSC takes roughly 40 days to release the prelims result. It means it is almost like, you can say, 1.5 months, nearly about that UPSC takes the time to release the preliminary examination results. अब आप एक बात सोच कर देखो, just by following the law of probability, that somebody has prepared for the mains examination for 90 days and somebody has prepared for the mains examination for 50 days, because that person has lost a large number of days in anxiety whether he or she would be able to clear the preliminary examination or not. Whose chances are more to qualify the civil services main written examination? वो तो छोड़ दो, किसके chances ज़्यादा हैं जो syllabus complete कर ले? वो जिसने 90 दिन पढ़ाई की है या वो जिसने सिर्फ 50 दिन पढ़ाई की है? आप मुझे ये सोचकर बताइए. Obviously, one who has got more time will be able to prepare more. Generally, that is what would happen, though there are exceptions. अब कोई आइंस्टाइन होगा आप लोगों के बीच में से तो अलग बात है, उसके लिए तो हो सकता है 20 दिन भी काफी हो. But at least this is what is the general understanding. So, scoring high marks in preliminary examination is in fact a way, or in fact the first step to increase your probability or chances to get selected in the final list. वो सारे लोग जो preliminary examination में बहुत अच्छा करते हैं, और those who are scoring very good in the preliminary examination, they can start for the civil services main examination. It means for them the real battle starts from the very next day, and therefore their chances of scoring big in the civil services main examination also rises proportionately. But those who are struggling, who are not sure that whether they would make it or not, they generally fail in preparing well for the civil services main examination. इसमें भी दो possibilities हो सकती हैं. एक तो ये कि आपका नहीं हुआ, और दूसरा ये कि हाँ आपका हो गया, कि मतलब खुद को भी यकीन नहीं था, बट कहीं से लिस्ट आ गई, प्रीलिम्स का रिजल्ट आ गया और उसमें नंबर दिख रहा है अपना. The first condition is at least better, where you did not qualify the preliminary examination. अब आप ये सोच रहे हो ये better कैसे हुआ? This is better because you have already wasted a lot of time in thinking about the prelims results. and you have not prepared well for the mains examination. The writing practice, the essay practice, the ethics practice, the optional practice. This is practically impossible in 50 days. Why? Because you are also giving the examination with already selected candidates who have already tested the waters of success. Do you understand that? So, logically thinking, this becomes very impossible, if not totally difficult. Do you understand that? Now, look at this. If you have not qualified, at least that is better. Because अगर आप qualify कर भी जाते हो, you are in no position to clear the civil services main examination. Generally speaking, again, exceptions can be there. Do you understand that? But generally, this has been the pattern, and what I have understood through my interactions with the aspirants for these many number of years, I have found one common pattern is that those who have scored high in the civil services preliminary examination, their chances of success in the civil services main examination grows. तो इससे ये चीज तो पता लग गया that it is not necessary to score the highest marks in prelims, but it is very essential to score high marks in prelims. Do you understand that? So that is the first understanding of the day. अभी तक इतना ही समझा है हमने कि हमको prelims में बहुत अच्छे नंबर लाने हैं. Best would be whatever the people are saying about cutoff, 10 to 15 marks more than that. If you are getting that much, then definitely you are in a good position. Clear? So how to go to that marks or how to achieve that kind of situation कि हम बहुत अच्छे हाई मार्क्स लेकर प्रीलिम्स का एग्जामिनेशन देकर आए जिससे कि हम मेंस की तैयारी बिल्कुल शुरू कर सकें. इस सिचुएशन तक कैसे पहुंचे, बस उसी पे बात करेंगे अब. So we'll try to understand that how we will give the prelims in such a resounding manner that our chances in the civil services mains examination grows enormously. Do you understand that? So that is what would be our whole discussion centered around today. So let us first have a look at how much time do we have. Count it from January. आज तो 3 तारीख है, न्यू ईयर भी हो गया होगा, सेलिब्रेशन आपका जितना होना था, तो कल से पढ़ाई हो सकती है. So from January till June, that is what we have. The biggest mistake that aspirants do is that they think they have 6 months time. It's almost half the year, 180 days nearly. So enough to clear the examination. But you see that nothing can be sustained over a very long period of time. In fact, it is scientifically proven that you cannot concentrate with all of your mind at one thing for more than 20 seconds. Do you know? That is what has been found out through scientific explorations. So it is impossible to sustain something at a very high rate for 6 months. क्योंकि अगर आप पूरा दम अभी से लगा देते हैं तो ये होगा that you will reach a peak very soon. Maybe you will reach the peak by March end. But the examination is in April, May, June. And you know, once you reach the peak, from there, there is only decay. तो एक बार ग्राफ अगर पीक पे पहुंच गया, वहां से सिर्फ स्लाइड डाउन नहीं होता है. बिकॉज यू नो, जैसे कि समझ लो, आप खाना बना रहे हो, यू आर कुकिंग समथिंग and you add some spices. It increases the taste of the food. But if you add a lot of spices, what would happen to the food? If you add a lot of water, what would happen to the food? It means that if you add a lot of energy at the wrong time, what would happen? It would be disastrous for you. And this is one of the major mistakes that aspirants commit who land up in this section. It means they hover around on both sides of the cutoff. Come June, you would be not at your best. Maybe you would be surrounded by so much of confusion, or so much of anxiety, or so much of pressure that you will not be able to perform. Do you understand that, students? So, the best thing is to divide this time into 3 slots. So, first thing that is important for you for these 6 months is time division. Now, when we talk about time division, let us first take the division in terms of months. Then we will talk about how we can do it for a daily schedule, but that sometime later. So, the first division should be the largest one. It should stretch from January, February till March. It means roughly 90 days. It means 50% of the time that you have should be given to the first time division. The second division should be a little shorter than this. Like say for example, it should only stretch for 2 months, April and May. Roughly you can say 60 days. Roughly 60 days, though this is 61 to be more appropriate. And then the third one, which is June. June 27th is your exam date. 27th June 2021 is your examination date. So the third time slot should be only for 25 days. The 26th day should be a day of relaxation. आपने देखा होगा, like say for example, if there is a very big tournament coming up, or suppose it is the World Cup final match tomorrow, the players will not practice very hard on the eve of the match. In fact, they would stop all the practice 24 hours prior to the match in order to provide a kind of relaxation to their body and mind. If your body and mind is not relaxed on the day of the examination, definitely you will not perform very well. अब जो साल भर में कुछ नहीं कर पाया, वो एक दिन में क्या ही कर लेगा? Do you understand that? But who has studied very well throughout the year, that person will gain enormously by relaxing one day prior to the examination. Now you see, what should we do in these time divisions? That is perhaps the larger question. ये तो time divide कर लिया हमने अपना, 3 slot तोड़ लिया हमने. अच्छा, आपने ये चीज आपने attention दिया यहाँ पर that as we are progressing, the duration of the days are decreasing. Why? Because the first 90 days is the day of first reading. This is the learning phase where you learn every nook and corner of the syllabus. You complete everything, the current affairs, CSAT, practice tests, everything. Whatever is necessary for the examination. You do everything. How to do it? I'll just tell you in a moment. The second time slot is the second revision. Most of the aspirants, they struggle in the examination hall, not because of lack of content or lack of preparation, but because of lack of revision. उन्हें याद नहीं आता कि ये 6 months था, 3 months था, क्या था polity में. Suppose, for example, do you understand that? So revision is very important, and this revision should be a very holistic revision. In fact, whatever you have studied in the first 90 days, everything should be revised in the next 60 days. And it is very much possible, students. The last 25 days should go to tests, the mock tests mostly, and it should go to the third revision. I am assuming that as you are reading for the first time, you are also revising side by side. So that would be the first reading and revision. This is the second revision, only revision. Nothing new you are learning in this time period, save perhaps the current affairs. Do you understand that? And in the last 25 days, you are making yourself exam ready. You are not learning anything new, because if you learn anything new at that moment, first it is not relevant for the examination because the question papers would be more or less prepared by that time period. And secondly, you will not be able to retain that learning, because if it relates to some concept which you already know and there is a new development about it, maybe you can get confused with respect to the concept that you have already understood. So that's why it is not advisable to read anything new when you are revising for the final time. During this time, you should revise only those sections where you feel you are bit, you can understand, shaky. और जहां पर आप स्ट्रांग हो, उसको टेस्ट करने के लिए आपको मॉक टेस्ट्स देते रहने चाहिए. Whether you join a test series and you give mock tests there, or you do it on your own by taking question papers from the market, depends upon your flexibility, your comfort level or anything. But this time should be the time dedicated to tests. Do you understand that? So this is the first thing that I wanted to tell you today is, see what we are aiming. We are aiming that we should be scoring so much in the preliminary examination that the anxiety phase is totally eliminated, so that we can prepare for the civil services main examination right from the next day. अब एक बात आप मुझे बताइए, प्रीलिम्स क्लियर करना है या क्वालिफाई करना है पूरे एग्जामिनेशन में? सिर्फ प्रीलिम्स क्लियर करना है तो आज से ही बिल्कुल लग जाओ पागलों की तरह, हो सकता है हो जाए प्रीलिम्स क्लियर. But if you want to clear the entire examination, you have to evolve a strategy. See, this examination, students, is not compartmentalized. It is an integrated examination. Every stage is linked to the other stage, and therefore you must prepare for every stage in a manner so that it helps you in the next stage, जिससे कि आप प्रीलिम्स में इतना स्कोर कर लो कि आप मेंस की प्रिपरेशन शुरू कर सको right from the next day. तो ये तो क्लियर हो गई बात अब तक. The second thing is that how should we prioritize our subjects in the preliminary examination? देखो, होता ये है that first time when you start your preparation, you pick the Lakshmikant book and you end with the Lakshmikant book. मतलब 26 तारीख को भी हाथ में लक्ष्मीकांत लेके ही घूम रहे हैं. It means that you have not prioritized the subjects for the examination. Now, one way to prepare the priority list is depending on your comfort level. Like suppose if someone is comfortable with economy, that person can start with economy. If somebody is comfortable with, say, history, that person can start with history. If somebody is comfortable with, say, geography, that person can start with geography. So one kind of priority list can be prepared on the basis of your comfort level. But एक बात याद रखो, in your life you will not attain success unless you leave your comfort zone. अगर आप सिर्फ सब कुछ अपने comfort level पे ही चाहते हो उस examination में करना, it will not be possible for you to turn the tides in your favor. Do you understand that? तो priority list कैसे बनाएं? वैसे बनाओ ना जिससे कि आपके इतने मार्क्स आने में आपको हेल्प मिले. तो कैसे बन सकती है? We need to see that from which area how many questions are asked. Let us have a rough look at it. So next thing that we are having a look is, this is the first thing, the time division. The second thing that we are having a look at is how should we prepare a priority list of subjects in order to score big in the preliminary examination. See, every year it varies a bit. Like say for example, in some years Maybe the questions from polity can go as high as 15 to 18, while in some years they can drop as low as to say 8 or 9. Same can happen with other subjects as well. But roughly speaking, on the basis of an average observation of the last 5 to 6 years examination, this is the trend that the current affairs section, approximately 30 questions are asked from the current affairs section. Then the environment and ecology section, nearly 15 questions are asked from the environment and ecology section. अब देखो यूपीएससी की एक मजबूरी भी है कि इतने क्वेश्चंस क्यों पूछने पड़ते हैं एनवायरनमेंट एंड इकोलॉजी से, बिकॉज द सिविल सर्विसेज प्रिलिमिनरी एग्जामिनेशन एंड द इंडियन फॉरेस्ट सर्विसेज एग्जामिनेशन, their preliminary examination is the same examination. It's a kind of combined examination. That's why, logically thinking, every year there will be large number of questions from the environment section. I'm giving you an average for the last 5 to 6 years. Year to year, it can vary a bit. But on the basis of an average only, we can evolve a strategy. By just looking at 1 year's questions, we cannot evolve a strategy. Do you understand that? Then comes, say, if you have a look at geography, 10 questions, more or less, from geography. Then if you have a look at history, and you can add with it, say, art and culture. You know, in the preliminary examination, ancient, medieval, modern, all are included, as well as art and culture. But you will see that a large portion of ancient history and art and culture will be overlapping. So combining these 4 areas, it means ancient, medieval, modern, art and culture, you will get roughly 15 questions. Of this ऐसा हो जाता है कि आर्ट एंड कल्चर से 5 क्वेश्चन के आसपास आ जाते हैं और बाकी 10 क्वेश्चंस में मॉडर्न इंडिया से 5 से 6 आ जाते हैं, एंशिएंट इंडिया से 2, कभी कभी मिडिवल इंडिया से 1, 2, कभी नहीं भी आता. Do you understand that? So here you are getting some hints that how you can prioritize your learning. अब क्योंकि आपका हिस्ट्री ऑप्शनल है और आप बहुत कंफर्टेबल हो मिडिवल इंडिया को लेकर, तो आप पहले सतीश चंद्र पढ़ रहे हो, फिर कोई दूसरी बुक पढ़ रहे हो, फिर पीएचडी कर रहे हो मिडिवल इंडिया में, obviously you will not be able to clear the preliminary examination. Clear, students? So we need to prepare one strategy how we will go about the preliminary examination. So 15 questions from history, art and culture roughly. Then think of polity. Polity 10 to 12. Let me write the upper limit 12. Then if you have a look at economy, economy will also give you more or less that many number of questions. Some of the questions that are asked in economy and environment and ecology and science also have a great kind of overlapping with the current affairs section. So based on that also we can determine that how much is the relative importance of these subjects. Then you have general science. Now many aspirants call it science and tech. But अगर आप syllabus देखोगे तो वो science and tech नहीं, general science लिखा हुआ है. General science means physics, chemistry, biology. Technology related questions are covered more or less under the current affairs section. Do you understand that? And over the years, if you have a look at the question papers, you will see roughly 7 to 8 questions are asked from general science. It means then we have 30, 60, 70, 94, 100. So we have 100 questions more or less prepared in this way. तो जब questions ही ऐसे आने हैं, if suppose you want to score 120, चलो यही रखते हैं हम अपना टारगेट 120 अभी के लिए, because if you look at the cutoff since 2015, the highest cutoff has been in the year 2016 when the cutoff went to 116, and since then the cutoff has only dropped. It dropped to 105, Then in 2018 it was 98. In 2019 also it was 98 for the general category students. And you see that in 2020 also it is expected that it will hover between 95 to 105, क्योंकि यहीं पे कट ऑफ तय हो जाएगा. अगर 95 से नीचे हो जाए फिर तो 27,000 लोग लिखेंगे means it's impossible. Do you understand that? At least it will create a logistical challenge for UPSC. So you see that this is what is the situation. So 120 means 60 net correct questions. How to go to that situation, I'll tell you. Be with me for this session. So दूसरा ही क्वेश्चन हम एड्रेस कर रहे हैं. पहला तो हमने देख लिया टाइम हमें कैसे डिवाइड करना है. दूसरा प्रायोरिटी लिस्ट कैसे तैयार करनी है, और यही प्रायोरिटी लिस्ट हर स्लॉट के लिए एप्लीकेबल होगा. आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट द वेरी डिटेल्ड स्टूडेंट्स बिकॉज इट डिफर्स फ्रॉम पर्सन टू पर्सन एंड देयर ओन कंफर्ट लेवल. तो सबसे पहली प्रायोरिटी करंट अफेयर्स को ही दो, बिकॉज 30 क्वेश्चंस इट मैटर आउट ऑफ 60. 30 क्वेश्चंस यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड 50% तो यही हो जाते हैं अगर ये सही हो जाते हैं तो. वैसे there is a very less likelihood that everyone would be able to solve all the 30 questions in current affairs in a correct fashion, provided the wide range of current affairs. But nevertheless, so current affairs should be given the first priority. मतलब आज से या कल से जब भी आप शुरू करना चाहते हैं, there should not be a single day which should go without current affairs. इस बात को अपने दिमाग में बिल्कुल बिठा लो अच्छे से कि अगर आपने करंट अफेयर्स छोड़ के रखा है, बहुत सारे होते हैं जो सोचते हैं, जो लक्ष्मीकांत और आर.एस. शर्मा और एनसीईआरटी और बिपिन चंद्रा यही पढ़ते रहते हैं. कई लोग तो वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री और एथिक्स भी पढ़ लेते हैं थोड़ा थोड़ा इस बीच, और करंट अफेयर्स छोड़ के रखते हैं आखिरी के 25 दिन. और तब they sit with these many magazines, these many notes which they have prepared, and large number of other sources which they have collected over time, and they feel panicked very soon. And then they start evolving a second strategy, a strategy without current affairs. But if you leave current affairs, the writing is very clear for you over the walls that you are gone. Do you understand that? Therefore, current affairs should be your first priority. Then take environment, ecology and geography together, because both these subjects, they help you in understanding each other, and also these two subjects will be conceptual in nature more or less. It is not like history or polity where there is a lot of memory factor involved. Here maybe suppose if you're reading some concept with respect to say climate or oceans or something like that, there is a kind of conceptual angle to it. So taken together they become 25. So this should be given the second priority. The third priority should go to history, art and culture. This should have the third priority. Then पॉलिटी और इकोनॉमी दोनों में ही 12-12 हैं. सो डिपेंड करता है. अगर आप पॉलिटिकल साइंस या पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन आपका ऑप्शनल है, एंड इफ यू फील दैट यू आर वेरी कंफर्टेबल विथ पॉलिटी, देन यू कैन डिले इट एंड यू कैन टेक इकोनॉमी. देखो ये होता है कि जहां पर हम कंफर्ट ज्यादा फील करते हैं वहां पर हम ज्यादा टाइम दे देते हैं. ये सबसे गलत चीज है लाइफ की. लाइक से फॉर एग्जाम्पल इन द क्वेश्चन पेपर, सपोज देर आर 5 questions and 4 of them you know very well, but one you do not know so well. So what most of the people do is they give a lot of time, more than necessary, to the ones that they know, and which they do not know, maybe they give only 5 minutes to that. Suppose it's a subjective type of examination, and already you do not know anything and you are not giving yourself any time to think over it. Do you understand that? That's a bad move. So if you are comfortable with polity, if suppose public administration, political science or otherwise also you are comfortable with polity, you can just delay that. Similarly, if you are confident with economy, you can delay that. So depending upon, you can have anything. You can make polity 4th, economy 5th, or economy 4th, polity 5th, any way you like. technology is a part of your mains examination, GS paper 3, clear? But in the prelims examination, it is still written general science. General science के लिए देखो, if you want to score very big, and I told you that if things do not go your way that day, समझ लो आपने ये सोचा अरे जनरल साइंस से तो 2 या 3 ही क्वेश्चंस आएंगे, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, बट अगर आ गए 10-11, क्या कोई रोका है यूपीएससी को या कोई रोक सकता है? यूपीएससी कैन डू एनीथिंग वॉट एवर इट लाइक्स. सो देयरफॉर यू मस्ट प्रिपेयर फॉर द वर्स्ट एज वेल. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? Especially students who do not have a science background struggle a bit in the general science. Therefore, to make the examination more of a level playing field, UPSC has started giving a lot of emphasis on science and technology. Because science and technology, or understanding of science and technology, say for example the working of a missile or a certain mission of NASA or ISRO or something like that, no special background knowledge of science is required. Clear? So that's why you see, this is the reason why the relative significance of general science is dropping and that of science and technology increasing over the years. But अगर जनरल साइंस पढ़ना भी है और काफ़ी है, आपके पास तो बहुत टाइम है अभी, तो क्यों छोड़ना? Start with biology, then go to physics, and then if time permits chemistry. And I'll talk about the sources also which you should follow for these, don't worry about it. Similarly, when you're talking about history, you have ancient, medieval and modern. Start with modern, and in modern also focus between the time period 1857 to 1947. It means the Indian national movement or India's freedom struggle. History before that, like say for example the decay of the Mughal Empire and all of that, it is important for the examination, but this is more relevant for the examination. अगर 10 questions होते हैं history से, I'm leaving art and culture, you will see 6 to 7 questions can be from modern India, and out of those 6 to 7, nearly 5 to 6 would be from the Indian national movement or from the time period between 1857 to 1947. So this should be your first strategy. Do you understand that with respect to history? Complete modern India. Then go to ancient India and take ancient India and art and culture side by side, because there's a lot of relationship between it. Like say for example, you're talking about pottery and you're reading about Indus Valley civilization, the Aryan civilization, or you're reading about Jainism, Buddhism, the political history in and around it, the economic history in and around it, and you are relating that to culture. How it helped in, say for example, the Mathura school of art or the Gandhara school of art, how did they evolve, and their relationship with the politics of that time, the economy of that time, the social structure of that time. Do you understand that? So, ancient India and art and culture makes more sense. Then you should go to medieval India. Like in 2017 you will see that questions from medieval India were 2 to 3. In 16 also they asked one question, in 15 they asked one question. In fact, in 15, one question was repeated from 2014 related to Buddha or something. So, you see that medieval India questions, they are also, they come more or less in numbers 1 or 2 to 3. 3 is the maximum number that has been achieved by medieval India. Do you understand that? So, you must prepare your priority list like that, कि जैसा examination आ रहा है, वैसे नहीं जैसे आपको मजा आ रहा है पढ़ने में. वो बाद में पढ़ना, जब सिलेक्ट हो जाओगे तो बहुत कुछ खरीदना और बहुत कुछ पढ़ना, जो मन करे. बट फॉर नाउ दिस शुड बी योर प्रायोरिटी लिस्ट. तो एक चीज हमने पहले डिस्कस की क्या, कि हमें टाइम कैसे डिवाइड करना है. सेकेंड, हमारी प्रायोरिटी लिस्ट क्या होगी सब्जेक्ट्स की, एंड विद इन द सब्जेक्ट्स ऑल्सो हाउ वी शुड गो. व्हेन यू आर रीडिंग एनवायरमेंट, इकोलॉजी एंड ज्योग्राफी, it would be advisable to start with geography and then go to environment and ecology. Why? Because environment and ecology is a subset of geography. In fact, even when this subject was not explicitly mentioned in the syllabus, questions were asked from environment and ecology sections. But because of the overall awareness which has grown with respect to the protection and conservation of biodiversity, climate change, global warming, etc., environment and ecology, its significance has enhanced over the years. Do you understand that? तो ये तो दूसरी चीज तय हो गई हमारी. The third thing is, which sources should we follow? That's the third important thing. Now, you see, a major reason for failure or a major reason for not performing so well in the preliminary examination is that people read a lot from sources that are irrelevant or unnecessary. मतलब ये होता है कि आपने एक बुक खरीदी है, समझ लो पॉलिटी पढ़ रहे हो लक्ष्मीकांत से और बड़े मजे से पढ़ रहे हो, but somebody comes over to your room or meets you elsewhere or calls you and say that Subhash Kashyap is a must read, so you have now purchased Subhash Kashyap also, say our constitution or our parliament, and you get another call from a third friend who says that D.D. Basu is a must read, so you have purchased one more. Then somebody says some other books, some other notes, some other copies, and all of that. And ultimately, you have this much of matter with respect to polity, and much of it is redundant. क्योंकि अगर कहीं पर लिखा हुआ है that these are the powers of राज्यसभा, ऐसा तो नहीं है कि दूसरी बुक में 4-5 पावर और बढ़ा देंगे, वो वही लिखेंगे जो है. Do you understand that? So it is very essential for us to keep our sources limited. What are the sources do we have as far as the prelims examination is concerned? The sources that we have is, first, it is NCERT. That is our first source. The second source is your class notes, if you have prepared any. I put a star in front of it because maybe not everybody prepares class notes, or maybe all have not done the classes. Clear? Then comes standard books. There are some standard books, some non-negotiable books which are very essential for the examination. Then you have the newspapers, then the magazines. Say for example the Yojana, Kurukshetra, or any other magazine that you have been following. In newspapers you must be reading Hindu, Indian Express, Hindustan Times, Mint, or any other newspaper. And then we can say there is this last source, which is the internet. So these many sources are available to you for the examination. इतना सब आपके पास है. तो एक तो हमने सब्जेक्ट की प्रायोरिटी कर ली, वैसे ही हमको सोर्सेस की भी प्रायोरिटी लिस्ट एक तैयार करनी चाहिए. Point is that, let's say for example, when the Supreme Court decides upon a question of law or decides upon a question of validity, legal validity, what the court does is that the court goes to the constitution. Court checks the provisions of the constitution, and if the constitution is silent on that aspect, the court sees the laws, central and state laws, if there are any on the subject. If the laws are also silent, the court calls for the rules and regulations which the executives make by using their discretionary power under the laws. If they are also silent, then the court uses its judicial conscience. Means there is a pattern that you should follow in order to arrive to a particular conclusion. As far as the preliminary examination is concerned, like say for example, there was a question that right to vote is a what kind of right? Is it a fundamental right? Is it a natural right? It is a legal right? Or is it a constitutional right? This was given in the question paper. And many keys that were released after the examination. There was a controversy. Some were calling it as a constitutional right, some were calling it as a fundamental right, because they were relating right to vote with the right to speech and expression, and casting your vote is a kind of expression. So they were relating it to Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. This is what they were doing. Some were calling it as a natural right under the democracy. And few others were calling it as a legal right because of the Representation of People's Act 1951-50, which makes it as a right. What kind of right is it actually? So different sources will tell you different things. But UPSC, when it released its official answer key, it indicated that right to vote is a constitutional right. And that was the last word. See, there can be debates that it is a fundamental right as well, it is a legal right as well, it is a natural right as well, because even the Constituent Assembly was created by voting. So right to vote existed even before the Constitution came into existence. So it could be a natural right under any democratic arrangement. There can be any debate. But the point is, UPSC's answer key is the final seal on the coffin. Do you understand that? Therefore, it was concluded that right to vote is a constitutional right. और अगर आप देखोगे, ये चीज साफ लिखी हुई है NCERT 11th standard, our constitution at work. Do you understand that? So, of all the sources as far as preliminary examination is concerned, this is your constitution, NCERTs. कभी मत छोड़ना कोई भी NCERT किसी भी सब्जेक्ट की आपको मिले. In fact, for some subjects, NCERTs are highly recommendable. Like say for example, geography, or say for example, even art and culture, the 9th standard NCERT. Economy, macroeconomics, general science, when you're reading something about biology, physics and chemistry, no need of going to any other book, but just the NCERTs would be enough. Even in environment and ecology, the basic ecology section you can learn from the biology NCERT. The last unit of 11th standard or 12th standard, just check it, that you have a last unit which is a unit on ecology, where you will learn about ecosystems, you will learn about the different kinds of linkages that happens in the ecosystem, what are the different kind of processes, all of that. And if you look at the questions that have been asked, like say for example, a question was asked regarding niche in one of the previous year's question papers, and you will see the statements, जो statements थे आपके option में, they were the same statements as they were picked from 11th standard biology NCERT from the unit that was dealing with ecology, the basics of it. So NCERT should be your first and the highest priority source. हो सकता है आपने बहुत सारे क्लास नोट्स बना के रखा है, हो सकता है कुछ लोगों ने NCERT का ही नोट्स बना लिया है, बिकॉज उनको लगता है कि NCERT भी बहुत ज्यादा है, इसको भी क्रिस्प कर लो. Well, it depends upon your comfort level, but the point is that you should at least in the first time frame of the 3 months, you should read about the NCERTs in detail. The second source can be anything. It can be class notes or your standard books. Do not use the books as books. Rather, use them as references. एक चीज जो NCERT से आपको समझ में आ गई है, like say for example, you have understood the way in which clouds are formed. Suppose you have understood that, clear? Or you have understood the concept of inflation from the macroeconomic NCERT. No need of picking a standard book again and again trying to understand the concept of inflation. Then in the standard book what you see is what is the addition over and above NCERT. Because after all students, NCERTs are books for school students, clear? They are written in very simple language, क्योंकि एक बच्चे को समझाना होता है, clear? So the language is very simple and complex concepts are best understood in simple language. Therefore, for conceptual understanding, NCERT is the best source. And when you read the books, the standard books, आपको क्या करना चाहिए? जो NCERT में आपके को नहीं मिला है उसके ही ऊपर थोड़ा बहुत addition करना चाहिए. Like say for example, if you are reading suppose a book like the G.C. Leong or Majid Hussain for say geography, then what you do is once you have completed from 6th to 12th all the NCERTs for geography, then only you should go to these books. You should not start with these books. Do you understand that? Because these books are not so much, you can say, in tune with the demand of the examination as the NCERT is. Now, a next question that must be arising in your mind is, NCERTs from which class? Should we read the NCERTs of 11th and 12th, or from 10th to 12th, from 6th to 12th, 8th to 12th? If you talk with different aspirants, they will give you or they will tell you different things with respect to the number of NCERT books that you should read for the examination. कुछ तो ये कहेंगे कि हाँ 6 से 12th सारा पढ़ लो, कुछ बोलेंगे 11th 12th पढ़ लो, कुछ बोलेंगे सिर्फ 12th के यही चैप्टर पढ़ लो. Well, if you follow my advice would be, students, and this is coming from my experience by interacting with large number of successful candidates, is you read all the NCERTs that you can. Ideally speaking, 6th to 12th, at least for geography. For history also, it would be highly advisable that you read 6th to 12th, because many art and culture questions in 2017 and 2018 were asked from 8th standard and 7th standard NCERT. Directly थे questions, कुछ तो cover page पे भी बने हुए थे वो topic जिससे question आ गया. So it is very important for you to read all the NCERT. एक बार NCERT हो गए, फिर आप अपने class notes पढ़िए. अगर नहीं है तो सीधे standard books पे चले जाइए. But keep the standard books limited. Like say for example, if you are talking about geography, it would be advisable that you read only 2 books. One is the G.C. Leong, Certificate in Physical and Human Geography, and the second book would be the Majid Hussain book on Indian geography, not on geography but only on Indian geography, only to add to your content with respect to Indian geography. But keep this in mind, when you will pick this Majid Hussain book on Indian geography, it should be a latest version because बहुत सारी चीजें add होती हैं उसमें. As far as history is concerned, I would suggest for modern India, you should read one more book, and it can be the Spectrum book. Spectrum, the publication is Modern Indian History. That would be enough. But अगर आपका history optional है और आपको अच्छा लगता है पढ़ना, so you can go for Bipan Chandra's India's Struggle for Independence. You can go for that book. But the point is that book is too mains oriented. And yes, you should read those subjects because modern Indian history is also a part of your GS paper 1 in the mains examination. Clear? So it is advisable that you can read that. But suppose you are fighting with time or you are not so much comfortable with the history sections, but you just want to complete it everything, the Spectrum book would be fine, more than fine, along with your NCERT. Similarly, for ancient India, you should again follow the NCERT, as many NCERTs as you can read. Keep this in mind, not a particular class NCERT. I'm not saying that. If that is the situation, you are reading only say the 10th standard or 11th standard NCERT, then you have to juxtapose it with large number of standard books. But if you are reading all the NCERTs, you will see, students, that it will not be required to read large number of books, at least for the preliminary examination. For mains examinations, definitely you should read large number of books, but today the discussion is limited to the preliminary examination. That's why I'm only talking in that sense. And for medieval India, the Satish Chandra NCERT would be enough. So NCERT for ancient and medieval. For modern, you have to read one book, which is Spectrum. तो अभी तक देखो बुक्स कितने हुए हैं हमारे पास, गोचिंग लियोंग, माजिद हुसैन, स्पेक्ट्रम, बस 3 ही बुक हुए हैं अभी तक. For art and culture, you can read any book, like suppose there is a book by Nitin Singhania, but the point is that that book is too bulky. So what you can do is you can prioritize again. And how can you prioritize which areas to read? In culture, देखो, art, architecture and culture are nothing but, see, art and architecture, they are expressions of the culture. आर्किटेक्चर में टेम्पल आर्किटेक्चर हो सकता है, रॉक कट आर्किटेक्चर हो सकता है, आर्ट में वो हो सकते हैं, डांस हो सकता है, म्यूजिक हो सकता है, कुछ भी हो सकता है, थिएटर हो सकता है. सो यू रीड दोज सेक्शंस which are covered in the NCERT 9th standard introduction to Indian art. वो पहले करना from the Nitin Singhania book, or if you have prepared notes, then no need of going to any standard book because you must have prepared the notes by following all. It would also be advisable that you follow the CCRT for latest developments with respect to art and culture. Come polity, you have to read the 11th standard NCERT, which is the NCERT on introduction to our constitution, and then Lakshmikant. That would be enough for the preliminary examination. For economy, you can read the macroeconomy NCERT. In that, leave the 4th chapter, which is very statistical. No need of doing that. But rest of the macroeconomic book is very helpful. And once you are done with the macroeconomic NCERT, I'm not saying the microeconomy, only the macroeconomy, because in the macroeconomy also, in the beginning sections, there is some revision of the microeconomy. So no need of going too much detail in the microeconomy, in the graphs and the curves. No need of going there because such questions are no longer asked. And you can club with this the economic survey and budget along with the newspapers. Again, no need of reading any standard book on economy in detail, but read some books as references. Like there are some books like Uma Kapila which would help you in the mains examination. It is not so much beneficial for the prelims examination. There's another book by Ramesh Singh, you can have a look at that book as well. But again, if you read the NCERTs, that would be enough. Clear? For environment and ecology, you should heavily focus on the NCERTs. And you can also go for the ICSE board books on environment and ecology, 10th standard, 11th standard, 12th standard. You can go for those books, relevant sections of environment and ecology, and you can focus on the newspapers for environment and ecology. Because of the 15 questions, you will see 7 to 8 questions would be more or less tilted towards application, whereas 6 to 7 would be focusing on the concepts. Clear? So keep that in mind. For general science, again, no need of reading any book, just read the NCERTs. The NCERTs of 10th standard physics, biology, all the NCERTs, it would be advisable as many as you can read. From 8th to 10th, if you can read for physics, that would be enough. For chemistry, you can read the 10th standard NCERT, just one NCERT for chemistry for 10th standard, और उसमें भी कुछ important चीजें, important units, not every unit. Do you understand that? So this is how you should go about. What about the newspapers? कितना पढ़ना चाहिए newspaper? Well, you see, newspaper reading is extremely essential for your mains examination, at least the editorial portion. But for the preliminary examination, the editorial portion is not very helpful, and you would be wasting a lot of time in reading the editorial portions for the prelims examination. Because see, editorials often cover opinions, and opinions are not asked in an objective examination. In a subjective examination, you can express your opinion, like in the civil services main examination. But subjective examination के लिए आपकी opinion नहीं चाहिए. They are based on facts. See, the difference between prelims and mains examination is, in mains you have to write an answer, but in prelims the answer is in front of you. You have to find the answer, and the probability of finding the answer is 25% because there are 4 options. Clear? If you are well prepared, definitely this probability rises from there upon. So the newspapers, be it Hindu, Indian Express or anything, आप इसकी जगह एक काम कर सकते हैं. For the preliminary examination, what you can do is you can go through the PIB regularly, because they would give the latest news, the facts in a very short and crisp fashion. सोच कर देखो ना, जो क्वेश्चंस बना रहे हैं उनके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बहुत लंबे लंबे स्टेटमेंट्स थोड़ी ना रख सकते हैं, जगह भी तो कम है. So they would go for short and swift statements and from standard source, and PIB is a standard source, it's a government source. So you can understand that if you just regularly follow the PIB, it would be enough for the entire current affairs section. But you can club that with your other notes and the current affair magazines that is available. Even this institute issues news impulse on its website daily. So you can just go to edenias.com and you can read those impulse. They are nothing but they are a congregation of all the current affairs found from different sources like PIB and other sources. So you can just go through this. So cut down on your redundant work. ऐसा ना हो कि आप 4-5 घंटे सिर्फ न्यूज़पेपर में ही लगा दे रहे हैं, and then it would become very impossible for you. Yojana and Kurukshetra, again, they are not so relevant for the preliminary examination. For the preliminary examination, it is PIB which is more relevant than any other. And club the PIB with your current affairs notes which you have prepared or will be preparing now, following the PIB and other sources. Plus, you can read the small news or crisp news which is available in the market, or you can follow the Eden News Impulse or something like that. Clear? That will help you. इंटरनेट पे तभी आप जाएं जब आपको कोई चीज कहीं नहीं मिल रही है. Suppose there is a particular topic, and you see, if you look at the syllabus of the preliminary examination, it's a very small syllabus. To have a detailed understanding of that syllabus, what you can do is you can check the CSE Beginner's Guide, which is available on the Eden IAS official website, and you can break down the syllabus thereupon, जिससे कि आप अपनी एक प्रायोरिटी भी सेट कर सकें कि कितने दिन में, कितने घंटों में कितने टॉपिक्स कवर करने हैं. So it will give you a foolproof understanding of the syllabus. और अगर समझ लो सिलेबस में कोई ऐसा टॉपिक है जो बिगिनर्स गाइड में है सिलेबस, which is available on the website by the way. So if you find something that is not available anywhere, or there is not enough content on it in any source, you can just go to the internet and you can find something about it. In that way, you can read from different sources. But again, what am I saying? That it is your NCERT which should be your first and the most important source. तो हमने ये तय कर लिया टाइम कैसे डिवाइड होगा ओवरऑल 6 महीने का, प्रायोरिटी कैसे होगी हमारे सब्जेक्ट्स की, ये भी समझ लिया कि सोर्सेस कौन से होंगे हमारे लिए. देन नेक्स्ट थिंग इज शेड्यूल. इट मीन्स द डेली शेड्यूल. कई लोग होंगे जो बोलेंगे 18 घंटे पढ़ लो बन गए IAS. वेल, it is not in the quantity of your study, but in the quality of your study that success is determined. So rather than focusing on hours, what you can do is you can think of 3 slots. कुछ होते हैं जो 6 घंटे पढ़ के भी उतना ही क्वालिटी डिराइव कर लेते हैं जो कोई 12 घंटे पढ़ के भी नहीं कर पा रहा है. So it depends from person to person. So I am not going to talk in terms of hours because that differs from person to person. But I can give you an overall, you can say, understanding of how your daily schedule should be. Like you have divided your 6 months in 3 slots, from 3 month to 2 month to 25 days. Similarly, you should divide your day into 3 slots, divided by 2 breaks, because breaks are important for relaxation of your mind. Otherwise, there would be law of diminishing returns. Do you understand that? That would kick in. So there should be the first slot of the day, which should be the longest. अब अगर समझ लो आप पढ़ते ही 4 घंटा हो तो हो सकता है 2 घंटे का यही वाला स्लॉट हो गया. which is longest. Depends upon how much effort you can give. That depends upon your willpower, right, students? Then there should be the second slot, which should be of medium length. And then there should be the shortest slot, which should be of least length. And the medium and the longest and the medium and the shortest should be separated by 2 breaks. Clear? In the longest slot, it should be all learning. You can divide it into conventional and current affairs, because see the priority of current affairs, you just cannot leave current affairs. So conventional and current affairs, depending upon which subject you are taking side by side. In the medium, what you should do is that you should revise what you have learned, daily revision. Clear? Daily short targets and daily revision of that, both the conventional and the current affairs that you have learned in the first slot. And the third should be application. In that, or in this section, you should solve the question papers, and herein come the role of questions that you solve. देखो 100 क्वेश्चन आने हैं, अगर कोई 5000 क्वेश्चंस बनाकर जा रहा है एग्जामिनेशन हॉल में, so there is a great chance that he or she has seen most of the types of questions. Do you understand that? Therefore, the surprise element will go down. It is only when you get surprised in the examination hall that this can also be a possible question where you will falter. Do you understand that? So 5000 questions, is it possible in 25 days or 60 days? But it is possible over a period of 6 months. Do you understand that? And in that also, you should divide as per GS and CSAT, depending upon if you feel a lot of trouble in CSAT. Over the years, you see, students, what UPSC has done is UPSC has made the CSAT paper more tricky. I will not say tough, but tricky. क्योंकि आपको पता है applications बहुत बढ़ रहे हैं, और जब जब recession आता है तब UPSC पे pressure बन जाता है, और अब हो सकता है we can see a short recession in the first quarter at least of 2021 because the economy is still recovering. Most of the people focus on government jobs, and of all the government jobs, maybe UPSC is the best job, or the IAS is the best job, or the IPS or the central services, the All India services. Therefore, the number of applications increase. So what UPSC is doing is UPSC is eliminating a large number of non-serious candidates by making the CSAT more tricky, or large number of underprepared candidates by making the CSAT tricky. And there are many students and many good students who do very well in the GS. हो सकता है they are scoring very good, 120, 125, such kind of marks in GS. But CSAT में उनके आ रहे हैं वही 56, 60, 61. So you can understand that you require a qualifying mark for the CSAT. Pre itself is qualifying, but CSAT is qualifying for the GS. पहले CSAT का पेपर चेक होता है, जो नहीं क्वालिफाई करते उनके GS का वैसे ही हटा दिया जाता है. Do you think UPSC will squander its energy unnecessarily? It would just focus its energy only on those papers who have qualified the CSAT papers. That makes sense also. Do you understand that? So the third slot of the day should be on application. इसके दो फायदे. पहला तो ये कि at least I am saying this should be followed for the first 150 days, 90 and 60 days. It should not be followed in the last 25 days because that is more application and less, no learning, in fact, no learning, no revision, just application and slight revision, partial revision of those portions where you are not so much comfortable. Now you see, when we are talking about the shortest or the last section of your day, this is the time when you are drained out. अगर इस वक्त आप क्वेश्चन पढ़ के समझ के सॉल्व कर लेते हो तो सोचो जब आप फ्रेश हो गए तब आप कितना अच्छा कर पाओगे. Do you understand that? That is the logic behind this. Now you see, like once a journalist asked Muhammad Ali that how many push-ups can you do in a day? Muhammad Ali said that I start counting only when it starts hurting. It means that it starts counting only when He feels he cannot do any more. So by this time, maybe you are drained out. This is where you have to push yourself. See students, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is the little word extra. Do you understand that? And therefore, take a break just before that and sit with a clock so that you maintain the time and you apply everything that you have learned. Clear? Solve at least those sections which you have done. So what you have to do, maybe in your free time, you have to collect questions from those sections. पहले से मत देख लेना questions, but at least collect questions from those sections. And as you progress, at least during the second slot or during the second revision time, what you do is that you take the mock tests, not the sectional tests as such, but the mock tests. Do you understand that? So this is how you should divide your schedule. See, you should set targets. Targets should be daily targets, practical targets and short targets. ऐसा होना चाहिए that today I will finish this unit of geography or this unit of economy or this topic of history and not beyond that. That today 1857, आज का दिन 1857 को सब कुछ पढ़ूंगा उससे related, कुछ भी नहीं छोड़ूंगा. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि आज के दिन ही पूरा आर्ट एंड कल्चर खत्म कर लेंगे. This is impossible. And second, it is not practical. Target should be practical. अगर हम ये गवर्नमेंट को बोले कि 2021 में आप हमको 24% ग्रोथ करके दिखाइए on the basis of 2011-12 base year, do you think that the government will be able to do it? It will not be able to do it because that target is not practical. Short target से क्या होगा? आपको क्विक रिव्यू मिल सकता है कि आप किस तरह और किस डायरेक्शन में जा रहे हो. आपने टारगेट ही रखा है 15 दिन बाद रिव्यू करेंगे, 14 दिन हो गए कुछ नहीं पढ़ा, 15वें दिन रिव्यू भी भूल गए. Do you understand that? Therefore, short targets will keep you on your feet. It will be like a whip on your head that you are going wrong. So it will keep you focused. Do you understand that? So that is what is necessary. Second, the next thing that you must develop for scoring that much in the preliminary examination is you should be multitasking. Develop the habit of multitasking. कई सारे लोग ऐसा होते हैं कि 3 महीने हैं ना तो शुरू के 20 दिन तो सिर्फ पॉलिटी ही पढ़ेंगे क्योंकि जब मैं पॉलिटी पढ़ता हूं तब मैं और कुछ नहीं पढ़ पाता. If that is the case, then what happens is it backfires in the examination hall because जब आप एग्जामिनेशन में क्वेश्चंस पढ़ते हैं, एक पॉलिटी, तुरंत इकोनॉमी, करंट अफेयर्स, साइंस एंड टेक. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? इट मींस योर ब्रेन नीड्स टू शिफ्ट क्विकली from one aspect of your mind to another aspect of your mind. And such multitasking abilities are very difficult, students, to develop in a day. Do you understand that? So you must develop multitasking. अब कुछ ऐसे हैं कि जिन्हें नहीं हो पाता, जो एक ही सब्जेक्ट एक टाइम पे पढ़ सकते हैं, बट ऐसा तो कर सकते हो, you can divide your week in such a way that in one week you touch all the subjects. That's it. Then your week at least becomes a comprehensive week in which you have shown some sort of multitasking. It would be good if you take at least 2 subjects per day, but if you cannot, then at least what you can do is you can allocate 6 days for 6 subjects and the 7th day should be given to current affairs, something like that. That is another way. I'm leaving it to your comfort level, but ideally speaking, current affairs should go daily. Why? Because you see the weightage of current affairs. And with time you see it will only grow. Why current affairs? Because current affair creates a level playing field. किसी का 6th attempt होगा तो उसने तो हो सकता है 7 साल पहले से तैयारी की है एटलीस्ट, तो 7 बार NCERT पढ़ रखी होगी, provided that person has read throughout. And suppose this is your first attempt or second attempt, you have not read so many times the NCERT, you are at a relative disadvantage. But if I give current affairs in the questions, then everybody has 1 year or 1.5 years. So it creates a level playing field. And that's why UPSC, like it is taking down the general science questions, it is similarly increasing the current affairs questions to create that level playing field. Do you understand that? Now, the point is that we must give a lot of importance to CSAT. do not leave CSAT. That's the next thing that you need to keep in mind. देखो, दो तरीके के situations हो सकते हैं CSAT को लेकर आप में. First is you are very strong with CSAT. Second is you are very weak. And the third situation is anything in between. If it is anything in between, then you should learn and practice CSAT. If you are weak, you should learn CSAT first. Those areas, like suppose you are weak with the arithmetic, or you are weak with logical reasoning, or with reading comprehension, it can be, it differs from aspirant to aspirant. So learn those areas. And how can you learn them? Obviously you can learn them. There are n number of sources through which you can learn them. There are books, and there are always classes which you can join, short bursting classes for CSAT or something like that, where you can complete entire CSAT. If you are very strong, do not get complacent with it. क्या कर सकते हो आप कि आप एटलीस्ट अगर रोज भी नहीं बट हफ्ते में 2 दिन CSAT का 2 पेपर सॉल्व कर लो, and keep it like Wednesday and Saturday. Do it like that. 2 papers of CSAT, so that you do not get complacent with CSAT. Do you understand that? If you are weak in CSAT, definitely you should practice everyday CSAT. But suppose the burden of GS is so much that you do not get every day the time to take out 2 hours to solve 80 questions of CSAT. But आप ये तो कर सकते हो that you give yourself 15 minutes, set the clock for 15 minutes and solve adequate number of questions that is relevant with respect to 15 minutes. Like if it is a reading comprehension, then हो सकता है कि आप 2 ही कर पाओ, but if it is arithmetic kind of, तो आप 6, 7, 8 तो कम से कम करने चाहिए आपको 15 minutes में. Do you understand that? So every day, short bursting 20 minutes CSAT भी हो सकता है. I know few aspirants who are successful now, selected candidates. This is what they did. During this break, they would just finish their slots, then they would solve a CSAT question, and then they would take the break. Then again they would read, they would revise, they would solve a CSAT area, another area, and then they would take the break. See, it is also as necessary to touch all parts of CSAT. ऐसा नहीं है कि comprehension ही किए जा रहे हो, या समझ लो पिछले बार arithmetic में गड़बड़ हुआ था तो अब arithmetic ही कर रहे हो. It is not necessary. Focus with respect to CSAT. CSAT is a fight, or it is a run against time. CSAT GS में तो हो सकता है आपके पास आपको नहीं पता है, but CSAT में ऐसा बहुत कम होता है, provided say leave the mathematics part, provided you are not from the science background or you have not studied mathematics to a higher level, then you might face some problem with mathematics. But mathematics is very, the questions that are asked are very simple level kind of questions, 10th standard level of questions. Till that level, everybody more or less have studied mathematics. Clear? So if you are struggling with mathematics, say maybe, then apart from that, mostly the scene is people are comfortable with other areas of CSAT. It is the time which creates the problem. So CSAT is all a run against time. So keep this in mind, that you focus on this while you are preparing for CSAT. Do you understand that? So students, in no case there should be a situation where you compromise with your CSAT preparation. What are the sources that you should follow for CSAT? Well, I would say that some basic books on LR or some basic books on arithmetic or comprehension would be sufficient. Clear? But improvement in CSAT happens only when you solve more and more questions. So you should solve more questions with respect to CSAT. जितने questions करोगे CSAT के, उतना आपका comfort level बढ़ता जाएगा CSAT को लेकर. Clear? Now, I'm talking about revision. That should be the next thing. It means you have done for the 90 days what you have to do. Then comes the time of revision. In the revision also you follow more or less the same schedule. For the 150 days you can follow this schedule more or less. You can replace here in the first 90 days you can do daily sectional, weekly mock, but here in the next 60 days you should do all mock, and again in the last 25 days you should do all mock. It means as many questions as you can solve. Do you understand that? So revision can be in 3 ways. First is self revision. उसके बारे में तो मैंने आपको बता दिया, what you can do. Most of the times what happens is many aspirants, they find it very hard to self revise. Why? Because they cannot put everything together in time. So another way is through test series. In fact, if you ask me, this is the best way to revise, not to learn, but to revise. Do you understand that? And revision should start from the first day. Don't worry about it. Because you have studied something. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि कल से ही पहली बार प्रिपरेशन शुरू कर रहे हो. अगर कल से शुरू कर रहे हो फिर तो 2021 आपको नहीं देना चाहिए. Then you prepare for 2022 because at least 1 to 1.5 years is required for this examination. अगर कल से शुरू कर रहे हो तो हो सकता है आपका प्रिलिमिनरी एग्जामिनेशन क्लियर हो जाए, बट मेंस और इंटरव्यू तो बहुत मुश्किल है फिर. बट एनीहाउ, सो टेस्ट सीरीज will help you in revising what you already know and in polishing your new concepts. So as many questions, 5,000 plus questions is essential. Do you understand that? And through the questions, जो आप टेस्ट सीरीज में इसके लिए मत जाना कि कितने नंबर आ रहे हैं, इसलिए जाओ कि कितने क्वेश्चंस मैं देख सकूं. जितने क्वेश्चंस आप कर पाओगे उनके उतने एक्सप्लेनेशन होंगे, and through those explanation you will learn more. This is something like what the Japanese call as reverse engineering. So through the tests you are learning the concepts one more time. तो वो पक्के हो जाते हैं. Do you understand that? And the other way is through classes. There are dedicated classes, revision classes, which are there all over everywhere. So you can join those classes, and through those classes you can revise. Like this institute also conducts a mission prelims course, which is a 90-day module in which you have tests and everything. And this is what more or less we do every day. What I am discussing here is it helps you enormously in preparing yourself in 90 days just in time. Do you understand that? So you can do that. And in fact, if you have that luxury and you are capable of doing it, then definitely you should club all the 3. And if suppose you are at least comfortable with the classes and you think that maybe I do not require any more classes, then the tests will speak for itself. Test से आपको पता लग जाएगा कि in what state you are. Do you understand that? Or at least test series is indispensable, because that gives you a kind of, it's the moment of your truth कि आप कहाँ पर हो with respect to your preparation. Do you understand that? So this is what I wanted to talk with you people mostly. But you see that there is a big question now, and the question is how to attempt more with precision. कि हम अटेम्प्ट कैसे अपने बढ़ाएं. देखो, एक तरीका तो ये है that people they go with a particular kind of number in their mind, that they will attempt 80 questions, 75 questions, और उसमें जितना सही होना है हो. अगर हम ये देख रहे हैं that we want, suppose for the safe side, this is what we want 120 marks, then we need to get 60 net correct. And if suppose you attempt 80 and in that suppose you have to then correct 65 questions, then only you will land up with net 60 kind of situation. See the hit ratio here, it is too much. Do you understand that? So we must attempt more. Generally you will see successful candidates, they attempt more. UPSC has introduced negative marking some time back and it is still continuing with it. See, negative marking का मतलब ये नहीं होता that it deters you from taking more questions into consideration, but it only deters those candidates who are making wild guesses. Intelligent speculations are always, they are desirable rather than wild guesses. देखो, नेगेटिव मार्किंग भी ऐसी है कि अगर लॉ ऑफ प्रोबेबिलिटी हम लगाएं तो वो मोर और लेस सेट हो जाती है. नेगेटिव मार्किंग इज 1/3. सो फॉर एवरी करेक्ट क्वेश्चन you get 2 marks. I'm talking about GS. And for every wrong question, see if it is correct, if it is wrong, it is 0.66. It's 1/3 of 2 marks that gets eliminated. और अगर इसको दूसरे तरीके से समझना चाहो तो ऐसे समझ सकते हो that suppose there is question number 41, 42, 43, 44. आपको कुछ नहीं आता. And suppose you just make some guesses here. Probability says that the chances of correct answer, if there are 4 options, chances of correct answer is 1/4. So in 4 questions, there is probability that 1 would turn out correct and 3 would be wrong. In that case also you get 2 marks and 0.66, 0.66 and 0.66 are deducted. It means 2 minus 2, it turns out to be 0. तो कुछ नुकसान तो नहीं अटेम्प्ट करने में, बट हाँ अगर गलत हो जाए, अगर चारों गलत हो जाए, मार्क्स एंड देन यू सब्सट्रैक्ट इट. सो यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड दैट अटेम्प्टिंग मोर इज ऑलवेज अ गुड थिंग, बट ये रिस्क हो नहीं पाता एग्जामिनेशन हॉल में. और इनफैक्ट ये स्ट्रैटेजी का हिस्सा ही नहीं था कभी कि हमें और अटेम्प्ट करने हैं, इसलिए हम अटेम्प्ट नहीं कर पाते. तो तरीका क्या है? तरीका है टेस्ट्स. जितने टेस्ट्स दोगे उससे हिम्मत बढ़ेगी और अटेम्प्ट करने की. If you attempt, it should be a reverse kind of thinking. ऐसा होना चाहिए कि 100 तो अटेम्प्ट होने ही है, दिन थोड़ा खराब हुआ तो 95, उससे खराब हुआ तो 90, फिर 85, ऐसे चलेंगे. उल्टा नहीं होना चाहिए कि पहले से ही सोच के गए कि 50 ही अटेम्प्ट करेंगे, 50 के 50 सही, 100 मार्क्स आए और समझ लो 105 कट ऑफ है, आप तो वैसे ही बाहर हो. So the point is you must attempt more, both in CSAT as well as in GS. But attempting more with precision will require a lot of practice of tests. Do you understand that? Both in an exam hall kind of scenario and second on your own. Only when you do that, like 5,000 questions you do through the test series or more than that, and the rest you do on your own. In total, if you do 10,000 questions before you go in the preliminary examination, mark my words students, there is a high likelihood that you would end up with extremely good marks. Do you understand that? Now, before I close this session, let me take some of the questions that we have encountered in the entrance test. So let me talk some of the questions about it, about that test. So इससे ही आपको पता लग गया होगा कि that whether you are committing silly mistakes or not. Like suppose if I take the question number 3, which reads as which of the following statements is are not correct. मतलब इसमें से कौन सा सही नहीं है? First, right against untouchability is a self-executory right. अब इसका मतलब क्या होता है? Self-executory means it comes into effect on its own. That is self-execution. If you look at the right against untouchability, it is found in Article 17. Article 17 abolishes untouchability. But does it come into effect on its own? Well, no. There is a Civil Rights Act which is passed by the Parliament. So this is that provision of the Constitution which needs supplement by legislation, or which needs to be supplemented by legislation. So the Civil Rights Act and Article 17 must be read in conjunction to understand the law of untouchability in India. Do you understand that? So that's why this statement is wrong. Second, right to privacy is both a legal right as well as fundamental right. In the Puttaswamy judgment, the Supreme Court has declared that right to privacy is a fundamental right under Article 21. Clear? So if something is a fundamental right, that can be legally expressed. but it remains a fundamental right. So this statement is also wrong because it is saying and. So it is making the statement half correct. Half correct is wrong. And the third statement is right to vote is a natural right under the Indian democratic arrangement. This I have already discussed. It's a constitutional right. So the answer for this question should be D, 1, 2, 3, because the question is asking not correct. All of them are not correct. Similarly, let me take question number 7. It reads as, consider the following statements regarding the office of governor. Reservation of a state bill for the consideration of the president is a discretionary power of the governor under all circumstances. Yes, obviously, the reservation of a state bill is a discretionary power of the governor. But is it a discretionary power under all circumstances? Well, no. In one situation, it is mandatory for the governor to reserve a bill, state bill, for the consideration of the president if the bill in question demeans or degrades the powers of the high court of that state. तो ये statement भी गलत हो जाता है because it is saying one line, एक छोटा सी line की वजह से under all circumstances. ये गलत है यहाँ पर. अगर यहाँ तक होता statement, reservation of a state bill for the consideration of the president is the discretionary power of the governor, it's a correct statement. But UPSC always plays with words, you know. The second statement is the governor of a state cannot reserve a money bill for the consideration of the president. Well, why not? He can. Just one thing is not allowed, that he cannot return a money bill. Do you understand this? It means suspensive veto is not available with respect to money bill. But he can definitely reserve a money bill for the consideration of the president. In fact, during financial emergencies, president तो ये बोल भी सकते हैं, governor को direct कर सकते हैं कि सारे money bill हमारे लिए रोक लो. Do you understand that? So, which of select the correct answer using the codes given below. So the answer again becomes D, neither 1 nor 2, because it is reserving a state bill for the consideration of the president is not a discretionary power under all circumstances, and the governor can reserve a money bill. So both the statements are wrong in this case. एक और क्वेश्चन देख लेते हैं. Question number 9. Consider the following statements with respect to the ordinance making powers of the executive. Well, ये हो सकता है कि आपके क्वेश्चन पेपर में ये क्वेश्चन नंबर्स अलग हों. डोंट वरी अबाउट इट बिकॉज ये रैंडम है, जम्बल्ड हैं, तो कैसे भी आपके क्वेश्चन पेपर में अपीयर हुए होंगे. बट एटलीस्ट यू हैव सीन दिस क्वेश्चंस इफ यू हैव अपीयर्ड फॉर द एंट्रेंस टेस्ट. Consider the following statements with respect to the ordinance making powers of the executive. It is a coextensive and parallel power that the executive enjoys vis-a-vis the legislature. Well, it's a coextensive power. Yes, the president can also issue an ordinance on any subject over which the parliament can legislate, but it is not a parallel power. It means president can do it only when the parliament is not in session and not when both the houses are in session. उस सेकंड स्टेटमेंट वही है, an ordinance can be promulgated only when both the houses are not in session. अगर एक भी नहीं होगा तो लॉ पास नहीं हो पाएगा, तो ऑर्डिनेंस हो सकता है. दोनों का ना होना जरूरी नहीं है, एक भी ना हो दोनों में से तब भी ऑर्डिनेंस हो सकता है. इट मीन्स द पार्लियामेंट इज नॉट इन अ पोजिशन टू पास अ लॉ. Another question which you'll see, that consider the following statements with respect to parliamentary and presidential form of governments. The parliamentary system of governments create less friction when compared to the presidential form of government. It's correct, because in presidential form of government there is clear separation of executive from judiciary from legislature. But in parliamentary form of government, in fact the parliament gives the government. It means the executive is drawn from the legislature. So the executive is a subset of the legislature, or the ministers are also members of the legislature. So it creates less friction. But in presidential form of government, it creates more friction. The theory of separation of powers is manifested more appropriately in the parliamentary form of government. No, it is best expressed in the presidential form of government, like in the American Constitution. The parliamentary system of government, as it has evolved over years, has broadened the legislative functions of the private members of the parliament. ऐसा नहीं हुआ है, because now the cabinet takes forward most of the policies. जितने भी बिल इंट्रोड्यूस होते हैं वो सब मिनिस्टर के बिल होते हैं, गवर्नमेंट बिल होते हैं. प्राइवेट मेंबर वो होते हैं जो मिनिस्टर नहीं है, भले रूलिंग पार्टी के भी क्यों ना हो. तो उनकी तरफ से बिल सब कम आने लग गए हैं. मे बी with some few exceptions in the last 2 to 3 years, you will not find large number of private members bills. This is because of the evolution of the cabinet form of government in which the ministers carry forward the policy of legislation. Clear? So, इससे हमको कुछ एक idea मिल सकता है. Let us now have a look at some of your questions. Okay, Shivali Gupta asks, sir, how to get your updated notes for UPSC 2021? Well, student, you can do this, that you can contact the institute and the management, and they will guide you with respect to the notes. The notes are available and you can get them. Even under the Mission Prelims course, there are notes which are provided to the aspirants, and they are more or less sufficient. Most of the messages are thanking. Uma Maheshwari asks, hello sir, good evening. This question analysis is regarding which year? Dear, I have just tried to give a analysis of the last 5 years, not for any particular year, because किसी एक year पे base करके हम अपनी एक strategy नहीं बना सकते. To make a strategy and a good strategy, we must have an analysis of at least 4 to 5 previous years. 2015 को इसलिए मैंने एक landmark year लिया है क्योंकि उसके बाद से CSAT बिल्कुल एक qualifying ही हो गया, वो merit में अब count नहीं होता. Utkarsh Tiwari asks, sir, if I'll be giving exam in 2022, from when should I start the current affairs? Well dear, again, देखो UPSC पे तो कोई बार नहीं है. In the recent years, this is what has been seen, that UPSC is asking questions of current affairs even from the past 2 years. So on a safe side, because you have time, you should prepare at least 1.5 years. That's essential. But if you have time, you should go for the last 2 years. और कई सारी चीज़ें आप देखोगे वो लिंगर करती हैं कि वो अभी भी चल रहा है. जैसे कोलिजियम सिस्टम पे कोई बात हो रही है तो अभी भी चल रहा है. तो it happens more or less. Okay, Curious Click asks, can you provide classes for economics, please, for free? Yes, definitely, student. There is a scholarship test. See, there is a very famous Chinese proverb which says that there is nothing like a free lunch. You have to earn it. Give that scholarship test, score big, and everything turns free for you. Meenakshi Reddy asks, sir, the target prelims test series is flexible or not? Also, please tell, can I shift to offline if I join prelims crash revision course? Yes, well, very well, student. That is flexible, completely flexible. You can fix as per your time schedule, obviously. The preparation should be demand driven. It should not be supply driven. And further, with respect to the prelims crash course, I think you're talking about the Mission Prelims course, which is commencing from 11th of this month. Yes, there also, the moment we have the permissions, now the vaccine is out, you know, and from here on, things can only become better because we have seen the ebb. इससे नीचे अब क्या हो सकता है? 2020 में हमने सब कुछ देख लिया. So from here onwards, there is a great possibility that we may have the offline classes permission also from the government or the authorities no sooner than later, and then we can just shift to the offline. Even I love the offline more than the online because I can interact with you people directly. Here it becomes a kind of challenge for me. But anyhow, I'm just trying my best. And most of the Ramandeep Kaur asks, Punjab PCS strategy, please. Well, dear, again, I am focusing totally on the civil services examination, but if this works in civil services, this will work more or less in the Punjab PCS as well, provided you learn the Punjab things as well according to it. Smart Boy asks, Sir, what is the fee for 90 days program? Smart है, बिल्कुल smart question किया है. The point is that you contact the management. There again, they will be in a better position to answer that kind of question. Mohit asks, Sir, please tell how to synchronize both the prelims class and test course with the routine you have discussed during the discussion. Obviously, what you can do is that when you are learning, you can learn in the class and you can revise on your own. बस एक ही बात है. इससे आपको क्या होगा कि in short time you would be able to learn more, because on your own, maybe if you are not so much experienced or you do not feel so much comfortable on your own, or you do not have well prepared notes at hand, then maybe you will squander your time. So in that way you can do, and when you, in the fag end of the day when you are going for the tests, you can just go for the tests. In that way you can do it. Okay, Manas asks, Sir, when the mission prelims and daily test program will start again, please dear contact the management. They would be in a better position to answer such kind of question. Mission prelims, I think it's starting from 11th, and the test program has started from 7th. I think it will start from 2nd. 11th, or I don't know, just contact the management. They would be in a better position. I think I'm just making wild guesses regarding, but mission prelims I know because I'm starting that section, so I've got my dates. So it's starting from 11th. Okay, again Vinay Bharti says, thank you so much, sir, for guidance. It's like a lamp for us in the darkness. Thank you, dear. Vinay Bharti also says, please also take discussion session on main strategy if possible. Definitely, that's also on the cards, and we're planning for something like that. But because now everybody is talking about prelims and most of the aspirants were contacting me with respect to prelims, so I thought that maybe that would be a better thing to do now, and this is a small effort by me and my team. Okay, Akash Singh says, or asks, rather I have missed one question. Okay, Gautam Reddy, he says, yes sir, need notes for preliminary examination. Students, you can get it under the mission prelims course. Akash Singh asks, how about Tamil? I think he's talking about Tamil Nadu board books for history. Can it be considered as replacement for NCRTs? Well, nothing is replacement for NCRTs. Yes, you can always read that. Those books are also good and they will help you in history. But if you see that statements जो आते हैं examination में, वो NCRT से ज़्यादा आ रहे हैं, rather than कोई किसी board से. But again, you can have a look at that. So that is it. I feel I have addressed most of the questions. So an announcement for all of those who are listening to me right now is our mission prelims course first 3 classes would be available for everyone. It is open session. It is available again for everyone. The classes are commencing from 11th of this month, and you can always have an access to those classes. They would be available on YouTube and other appropriate platforms. For further details, you can contact the management. So I'll see you again in the mission prelims classes. Thank you very much.